Welcome to Skin of Color Savvy, the art and science of treating patients of color, the official podcast of the Skin of Color Society, produced by HCPLive. In today's episode, we are featuring a conversation with a medical student member of SOX, Umayr Shaikh, a MD candidate from Georgetown University. So, welcome, Umayr. Please feel free to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I'm super appreciative. I'm really grateful to be here. Skin of Color Society has played such a big role, I feel like, in my medical journey. A little bit about me. So, I grew up in central Indiana, and my family's been there since the early 2000s. And I actually, when I was in college, I went to undergrad at Butler University. I studied communications and Spanish. Initially, I thought I'd maybe do something in the humanities. And then when COVID-19 hit, one of the only things that I could do was volunteer at a local free clinic that was somewhat close to my home. And by doing that and interpreting and just helping with whatever tasks I could, I fell in love with medicine. And I realized that it was something I wanted to dedicate my career and my life to. But I still wanted to do something that sort of let me bridge the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And for me, that answer was public health. So I actually did my master's in public health after undergrad, before medical school at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. And that's kind of where I really fell in love with dermatology. Uh, and as I'm putting together my personal statement now, working on it, I feel like I'm touching on so many different reasons and facets of why I love derm and why I want to do it. One of the more recent ones that's really been sticking in my mind is when we did our capstone project. I remember that we really wanted to look at differences in vaccination rates between counties of New Hampshire. Dartmouth College is in Grafton County. It is very well educated. The amount of health facilities there is greater than any other area of New Hampshire. And so the COVID-19 vaccination rate was, I think it was above 80% or something like that. Our team was interested in looking as into areas of New Hampshire that were not as much vaccinated. And we ended up working with this county, Merrimack County in Franklin, New Hampshire, and who had vaccination rates under 40%, less than half of what they were in the area Dartmouth was. And so
Mhm.
I remember very specifically, we called someone from the health department or the public health office, and we were like, hey, can we just like come work with you guys and see what maybe we can do to help you out, if there's something that we can provide to you. And what we realized when we got there was that it was really more of a matter of accessibility. And residents in these areas, they were elderly. It was hard for them to get around. And at the same time, there really wasn't a lot of health facilities around them. And so they told us, what would be really great is if there was just an easier way to get access. And we asked, what are some specific concerns you have? And the first thing they said, I will always remember, was skin cancer. They said, we have a huge burden of skin cancer here, and we wish there was something we could do about it, whether it's screenings, whether it's providing services to get our residents to places where they can get that specialized dermatology care. And from there, I knew that this was something I wanted to dedicate my career to, specifically the intersection of public health and dermatology, and increasing access and accessibility and advocating for underserved populations. And everything I've done has kind of come from there.
And yeah, I wanted to ask you then about your research interests specifically related to that, because I know that you presented at the Skin of Color Society's scientific symposium, and I believe you were voted as the top oral abstract presentation. So congrats on that honor. That's great. Yeah, and so could you tell us about this project and just any important takeaways that came from it?
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. Have been honored over the past 1 year to spend time with the University of Pennsylvania Department of Dermatologic Oncology. And from what I shared with you earlier, I knew coming into this year that advocacy for underserved populations, specifically the skin of color angle, was something I wanted to focus on. And so there was a previous research fellow who did this amazing project on showing how Mohs micrographic surgery, which is a specialized type of surgery to remove skin cancer, can offer benefits over conventional excision, or what the standard of care is right now for patients who have acral lentiginous melanoma. And acral lentiginous melanoma, or ALM, is a very difficult type of melanoma because it disproportionately impacts people of color. And so when you look at the fact that Mohs is more of a specialized surgery that not every center can do, and you need specialized, and a lot of times specialized fellowship care to do it, versus conventional excision, that disparity, that potential disparity becomes apparent. And what I have found was that no one had actually looked into possible racial disparities that patients who are undergoing Mohs for acral lentiginous melanoma may experience in the surgical period. We had prior research showing that there were disparities. We had research showing that patients of color had worse outcomes for acral melanoma compared to the Caucasian populations. But what we didn't know is what those disparities specifically told us. And so, building on the work of Dr. Ella Frankel, my previous research co-fellow, I wanted to expand the study and say, when we look at patients who are just receiving Mohs for acral melanoma, what are some possible disparities that we can observe? And what we found was that patients of color who underwent Mohs for acral melanoma had significantly larger preoperative and postoperative defect sizes, as well as double the Breslow depth or depth of invasion when compared to our non-Hispanic white comparator group. And that really elucidated so many different things for us. It showed us that maybe there's something going on when these patients have already presented, that there's a more advanced disease at presentation that's necessitating more complex, more involved surgeries and reconstructions. What we found was that Mohs offered about equal amounts of local control for both the non-Hispanic white groups and our patients of color. So we established that it was an efficacious way to treat acral melanoma, but patients of color had more advanced disease at presentation. And so I kind of ended the presentation with a call to action saying that if this surgery is starting to be used more for acral melanoma, and we're already seeing the disparities that we are, the time to take action is now. And we need better referral pathways. We need better education for clinicians. And we need to prioritize our patients of color with this cancer so that the disparities we're seeing now don't continue to widen. And I think that's something that I was really able to cultivate here because of the mentorship that I had, in large part because of Dr. Bill Higgins and Dr. Susan Taylor, who were the main PIs on this project.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your other research interests then and what inspired you to kind of pursue these questions.
Absolutely. I think a large part of my research interest really comes from, like I was saying earlier, my public health background. I knew coming into med school and when I was interested in dermatology, that umbrella of public health and dermatology was something I wanted to focus on. And there are so many different areas within that. Skin of color is obviously a really important one for me. I think another one is rural health. I grew up just right outside some very rural communities of Indiana. And seeing the care access disparities that are apparent on the rural level are staggering, and that was something I wanted to address. Also, advocacy and education. I think right now it is very easy to get your hands on information, but it's a lot harder to get your hands on high quality information. And so being able to disseminate high quality information in a way that's easy to understand, that people can relate to, they feel that they can connect with, is something that's very, very important to me. And so whenever I am writing a paper or I'm preparing for a presentation, something I always try to ask myself is, put yourself in the shoes of someone who has no idea about any of this. They're just, someone that maybe you walked by on the street and you're striking up a conversation. The way that I frame my research should be so that any person could understand it. And so that communication aspect is something I'm very passionate about because I think it ties directly into education and also trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Education is key. And I wanted to ask you as well, where do you feel research may be more needed in the field of dermatology? I know you mentioned access in different kinds of communities. You also mentioned rural communities. Do you feel like that's an area where we need more research, or are there any other areas you can think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think those areas of research are more needed. And I think a particular area that I have not seen a lot of focus on is skin of color in rural communities. That's another thing I think is much needed. I think sometimes rural communities can have the stereotype about it that these are not very diverse places. When in reality, for many places, that couldn't be further from the truth. I can speak to where I'm from in Indiana. A lot of the communities around me are from minority immigrant populations. And so there's still a huge skin of color tie-in there, and you kind of see the intersection where skin of color intersects with like geographic accessibility. And I think looking at those various intersection points at so many different areas of dermatology is something that is very important. And we have and going forward being mindful that these are looking at one thing in isolation can paint a limited picture, and the power of being able to do research and working with the different partners and mentors is the ability to ask these questions from multiple angles. And so that's definitely a big place where I think there could be more research.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I love the angle that you have on this, where you got your master's in public health and now you're able to look at these things from that kind of lens. I think that will really probably benefit you in the future as you move forward with your medical career.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And something else that actually just popped into my mind as we were talking right now is I one of my mentors, Dr. Chris Miller, he always the first day I came here and was meeting with him, he asked me the question, why do we do research? And it was me and my two co-fellows, and we were throwing everything against the wall. We were like, oh, it's to answer questions, it's to improve people's health. And he was like, yes, all of that's true, but what at its core, what's the reason we do research? And he then told us that the reason why we do research is to change behavior. And I think that those three words, to change behavior, has really served as the bedrock of all of the things that I want to do this year. And also, where more research is needed within dermatology. I think translating these amazing findings that we have into action, saying, okay, we have the disparity, we know it's there. What now? What do we actually do about it? What are community partners, legislation, advocacy? All of these different areas are so important. And so for me, it's taking that known disparity and then taking it a step further and asking the question, what can we do about it?
Yeah. Right. Well, I want to pivot slightly and I want to ask you, as a medical student nearing graduation, could you tell us your thoughts about the role and importance of mentorship in your development as a physician?
Absolutely. I think mentorship has probably been the single most powerful component of my journey that has allowed me to be in a position where I can be here talking to you guys and presenting at the Skin of Color Society. I I think it is so important from people who have been through this process, who are passionate about giving back, to do what they can to help out. And it's something that a philosophy I myself try to implement with even younger medical students, any way that I can help mentor them because of what's been given to me. And actually, I think the most powerful example of this is through the Skin of Color Society. When I came to Penn for my research year, one of the first people I connected with was Dr. Susan Taylor, and I reached out to her, and I said, I have this huge interest of skin of color, and I'm working with the Derm Onc team here. What are some ways we can collaborate? And she has been instrumental in providing me those opportunities. I'm also very fortunate to be participating in both the Skin of Color Society observership program and the mentorship program, and for my observership program, I'm going to be spending a couple weeks in the fall with Dr. Leah Chung over at Beth Israel and working with her and shadowing her, learning about the use of different lasers and procedures and learning more about skin of color from a sort of cosmetic perspective and for scar healing, for wound care, for all these really great areas. And then for my mentorship program, someone that I want to say is like a personal hero of mine, and someone that I'm just so honored to be able to learn from, Dr. Avery LaChance at Brigham. And she and I were paired for the mentorship mentee program. Her background in public health resonates very closely with mine, and that's something we actually connected on. And the Skin of Color Society sort of served as this amazing vehicle to bring us together. And so that mentorship, finding someone who has the same interest as you, who wants to make an impact, make a difference, but they're further along in the process, they can provide that roadmap for me. And it's led to just some incredible opportunities. And so I'm so honored to have those quality of mentors that I do in my career.
Yeah, that's excellent. Absolutely. Well, okay, so I wanted to ask you something in particular because as a upcoming physician and someone who's currently in medical school, I know that you have exposure to some things that maybe previous generations didn't have, like, for example, like the use of AI, the use of technology in various ways. And I was thinking about this. How is that playing a role in what you're doing? And do you see the field changing, or do you see residency changing maybe, or anything of that nature with respect to AI in particular? Because it is a hot topic right now.
I love that we're talking about this because it's something I've been thinking more and more about. I think in my very limited sort of opinion as a medical student and what I've seen in derm so far, I think AI offers tremendous promise and can really enhance the work we do if it's used the right way. And I think there's that little asterisk there, where what defines being used the right way. I think if we use it to sort of take our existing body of knowledge and grow it and use it to help us with perhaps concepts that are difficult to understand that need some more clarification, if we can use it for sort of the smaller tasks that, especially in the research area, that can take a lot of time, but they can maybe help us do some smaller things better, I think that's great as well. And also from the patient education perspective, I think one of the things at Penn we were actually exploring in the fall was using AI generated videos to explain Mohs micrographic surgery and sort of the wound care that comes after and what the surgery is like. And I think there's tremendous potential in those areas. That being said, I would also say that we need to be cautious. An area I'm very passionate about is climate change in dermatology. And I think AI and all of these data centers that are being built are can pose a significant harm to the environment if they keep expanding at the rate that they are. And so there needs to be some sort of regulation in that area. Um, the other thing is when AI crosses the threshold from I'm going to sort of assist you to I'm going to do things for you, that's where the danger really is. Because medicine, one thing I've learned just being in school these past few years is that medicine is really about cognition. It's about being able to take different concepts and put them together in a way that leads a cohesive narrative. And if you're relying on AI to accomplish such a task for you, I think it's really gonna hinder your development as a physician. So it to basically answer your question in short form, yes, there is absolutely a role for it, and I think it could really enhance the field if used the right way. But we just have to be careful in the way that we're going about it.
Very interesting. Very well put. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, okay, so I want to ask a little bit more now about your role well, your upcoming role as a physician and your experiences right now in medical school. Have you identified a subspecialty or a clinical research focus that you hope to pursue? And could you tell us a little bit about why you're drawn to those ideas?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think one of the, while I'm still exploring sort of the specific areas in dermatology, and I'm not quite sure like what area of derm from a clinical perspective I want to focus in on. What I do know is that I want to be in an academic setting that interfaces very strongly with the community around it. And that's something that has really informed my career so far. It's something that's guided a lot of my decisions, and it's something I want to keep doing. And I think a good example of this is I'm part of an organization called Learn to Derm, which is a nonprofit based out of Washington, D.C. The chair of our board of directors is Dr. Adam Friedman, who's also a member of the Skin of Color Society. And I've learned so much from him, seeing his work as, the chair and program director of a department. And at the same time, being so directly connected with the surrounding DC community. And it's something that I really aspire to do myself. Whether that takes me back to, the Midwest, Indiana, or somewhere else, I'm not sure. But whatever sort of puts me in that academic setting and connecting with the people around me is what I want to do and continue advocating as much as I can.
Could you tell us a little bit then about your experience with SOX, specifically, and what you've gained from belonging to the organization as a student member?
Yes, I think socks has been career defining for me in so many ways. I remember when I was first interested in dermatology, I was wondering like what avenues exist for people like me? What areas are there that I can explore? And when I was looking into it, socks was one of the first things that I found. And I still remember my second year of medical school, I attended my first socks meeting. I believe that was the conference in, I want to say it was Orlando, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
It was,
I
it
don't
was,
remember that one. I don't think I attended at that point, but yeah.
it was an incredible meeting. And I remember sitting in the back room and watching the student oral abstract presenters and just being blown away by the kind of work they were doing and thinking to myself, that's what I want to do. And I want to be up there, whether it takes me 2 years, 3 years, I want to be on that. I want to be up there on that stage. I want to be able to give a presentation that just excites everyone around me and really contributes to advancing our field of knowledge. And I've been so fortunate to now have had mentors and friends and colleagues that have made that into a reality. And now going forward, having worked with Dr. Taylor, Dr. Higgins, our Penn Dermatologic Oncology team, Dr. Chung, Dr. LaChance, when I look at all of my mentors and I see where they all converge, it's right at the Skin of Color Society. And I think it's such a wonderful opportunity for students like myself who are, racial ethnic minorities coming into the field of dermatology and may not necessarily feel like they know where to start. And having socks being there as a place to say, you can come here, you can come to us, you can work with us. I think that is one of the most powerful opportunities that Socks offers. And I'm so privileged to be a part of it and want to give back in the future.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. We'd love to close with your favorite pearl of wisdom to inspire others. Your previous statement kind of serves as that, but let's say one more pearl of wisdom that you could share that you'd say has been maybe meaningful in your journey.
Absolutely. I'm gonna steal someone else's pearl of wisdom. I'm gonna say that this is not this is not Numer original.
Okay, we'll allow it. We'll allow it.
When I was presenting at the Skin of Color Society this past year, I had the privilege of going right before Dr. Vinod Nambudiri, who actually gave a talk about AI and its role in dermatology and skin of color. And I remember something that he said, which was the importance of maintaining humor within your career. And I've thought about that ever since he said it. And a funny story actually from the Skin of Color Society, from the SOX conference itself, is when I was giving my presentation, something the clicker that I had on stage wasn't advancing the slide. And so I'm kind of like standing there on stage and people are looking and I'm getting a little like nervous. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell a joke and see how it goes over. So I asked the moderator if it was okay, and then I told I'll drop it here so you guys can use it. But I asked,
Please, yes.
yes, no, absolutely. Feel free to. And again, this is also not Numer original, but it was, what do you call a belt made of watches? And I kind of let it linger for a second, and then I went, a waste of time,
Uh,
and and I got a little chuckle out of the crowd, and I feel like after that the room was relaxed and I was relaxed and was just able to talk to everyone like we're doing now, very conversationally. And then right after me, Dr. Nambudiri was talked about the importance of humor within your career and maintaining that. And it's something that I'm going to take that with me forever. And just being able to smile, being able to laugh and enjoy. I think humor is an expression of the joy that the soul feels. And so if you're able to express that joy in humor and laughing, I mean, there's no better way that you could hope to have your career and hope to live your life. So that would be my last pearl of wisdom.
no, I love that. I think that's a great one to end on. So, yeah, thank you, Umair, so much for taking the time to speak with us and sharing a little bit about your journey. And that last joke, I enjoyed that actually.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Tim, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, to our listeners, we hope you found today's episode enlightening as usual. And if you're interested in learning more about the work of the Skin of Color Society, visit skinofcolorsociety.org. Don't forget to subscribe to HCP Live's newsletters, follow us on social media, and stay up to date on the latest in dermatology and more. And we will be back soon with another episode. So be sure to tune in and subscribe to the Skin of Color Savvy on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, take care and thank you for listening.